really quickly, what do you attribute all of the massive success of the airport? It seems to grow in numbers every year, passenger trips every year. It's expanding and yet remains efficient.
Yeah, I think the answer, and I've been telling people this since I started. The guys who designed and built this airport were brilliant. They had vision and courage, which is lacking these days. They knew what the right thing to do was. It was very, very expensive, and they went ahead and did it anyway. And they faced a lot of hurdles, but what they did was brilliant by creating a hub and spoke design to have a main terminal where you check in your baggage and then take a train to where the planes are. That didn't exist anywhere in the world. So when people talk about modern airports and the train in Shanghai or whatever, we did that over 50 years ago. And I think we kind of lost our way since that time. That was brilliant, and then we really didn't do a whole lot since then.
Interesting in Tampa, though, right? I mean, why didn't New York get this? Probably because they already had an airport that was built out, and they were just trying to play catch up.
Our timing was great. We built this airport at a time when jet travel was exploding, and it was really, really the right time. And we weren't burdened by any previous ideas. We had nothing but new ideas, and we developed this airport from scratch without having to retrofit anything. It was a greenfield site. And it turned out it's brilliant.
Wasn't there an Army air base, something like that?
Yep, there was an Army base, Air Force base called Drew Field. I think it was Army or Air Force.
Let's get some of these images pulled up, Tyler, too, as we talk about this. Could you pull up, Tyler, where you sent the drive file from Bo? Okay, cool. So you have it. Sweet. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like had the city grown to a larger space and there was already a built-out airport, it would have been impossible to kind of, hey, no flights for 3 years while we build this new thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's kind of interesting the way it lined up.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is.
So we had Drew Field was operating. Drew Field was over by off of Boy Scout, is it? Off Columbus Avenue. That's the way people used to come to the airport, was Columbus Avenue. And there was a shack there, and 3 or 4 DC-3s outside, Eastern Airlines, and basically there was no security back then. There was no jet bridges. You walk through one building where there's where people would smoke cigarettes, and then you go out the back and you get on an airplane.
So wild. No security, no TSA.
None of that.
Smoking cigarettes on a plane. What a different world.
It's totally different. In many ways, I'm happy that people don't smoke cigarettes.
Me too.
But a lot of the other stuff I could do without.
That's for sure. Yeah, I think I'll take 2024 over probably 1924. We're talking 34. Because the airbase there, I think, was started and constructed during World War II. I think that was the reason for it.
I think that's correct.
Along with MacDill,
yeah,
which I believe was Drew Field. It was called back then.
Yeah.
So we had the space for it. Now let's talk kind of planning. I mean, I'm sure you know some of the history there. Why was this design brought specifically to Tampa? Is it like you said, is it just because everything lined up right? We have an empty green space. There's a jet boom going on. How did that famous designer, come here to Tampa to expose this new spoke design?
I think the designer, Bo, was it Lee and Elliott? That was the lead designer?
There was Greiner, and then there were a bunch of different...
Greiner.
Yeah, Reiner was probably the lead, and they came to the board with ideas, which is what we're doing now with our international air side, and the board reacted to those ideas, and evidently they reacted favorably to this hub and spoke concept, and it was also during the time when I think the DC-10 crash occurred. And they had to delay the terminal, so there was a lot of noise around this project. But they had the courage to go ahead and do it, and I think that makes all the difference. This revolutionary design has helped us. There you can see one of the air sides, and there's no cars, there's no roadway congestion because you came out there by train. The roadway congestion is all by the main terminal. So you separate a lot of things by doing this, okay? So the cars don't come out by the planes. Trains take you to planes. They're like horizontal elevators, if you will.
Yeah, we were talking before the podcast. Apparently, people were afraid of the trams, and the way they kind of alleviated that fear was saying, "Hey, it's just like an elevator, but it takes you horizontally instead of vertically."
Yep.
And then that made people feel okay with it.
I think that was a good way of describing it, and it has worked well over the years.
That was a good image, that aerial image. Can you go back? Just so people can see this spoke design. And it's still set up in effectively the same way today.
It is. It really is. I mean, the area down to the right on this picture is a general aviation area. The main terminal is the same as it was. There is no exit at the north side to Hillsborough that's shown here. That was never done, but that is effectively the campus that we have right now. Our plan is to build a new airside up to if you move your cursor to the upper left building. Right there. Yep. That's going to be a new international airside. So we'll be completely built out. We won't have 6 airsides. We'll have 5. So and we're using the existing roadways and infrastructure, which shows you the brilliance of the design. We've been able to actually every single airside that was built originally has been torn down and replaced. And we now are building the 5th airside. So the infrastructure that was created has handled it very well over the years, and it's able to take another airside.
That's impressive. Like the fact that the road system, the way it's actually, like the logistics of the airport, how people move around has stayed relatively the same. But of course you've modernized. I know you've rebuilt the main terminal and all the spokes and all that. But it is extremely impressive that, we're talking about this was designed in the 1960s. Cars were different back then, right? Every safety standard has been changed since then. The volume of traffic, too. There's so many more people. I bet if you looked up, I don't know how you could look this up, Tyler, but 1971, the year of opening, how many flights were there out of Tampa International versus what was 2023? Probably 20 plus million.
Oh, yeah. 23 million or so.
23 million or so.
Yeah.
And the fact that same design has been able to handle that volume over the decades.
Yeah, it's got great bones. Okay,
Yeah.
So there was no reason to do anything to the structure or the design. We modernized some things, we renovated some things. But I'll give you an example of how brilliant this design was. When we decided to expand to the east and the west and create those big areas out to the east and the west. We have a concessions area, we have an event space, we have a P.F. Chang's, we have a Hard Rock Cafe. Those were built out onto a space that was not conditioned space. We were able to expand the building without having to beef up the structure below. So our forefathers said, well, wait a minute, they might want to expand east and west, so let's build it so that they can do that in the future without having to redo anything. And so they even thought that through. So, I mean, it's just brilliant.
If you enjoyed this clip, click here for the full episode and make sure to subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.